Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Let's talk a bit of security today. Day before yesterday, we all witnessed, it looked like a spectacle. I'm talking about when the suspended governor of Central Bank was granted bail, and he couldn't leave there. There then seemed to be something of a tussle between two government agencies, DSS and the Correctional Service, as to who would, have custody of suspended CBN Governor Emefiele. That was something of a spectacle, and so we want to find out today, or at least talk about it, whether interagency rivalry is actually crippling the fight against insecurity and crime generally, whatever the crime is. But the kind of interagency rivalry that we saw there, what does it portend? Well, our guest this morning, we got Mr. Lanre Suraj. Mr. Lanre Suraj is a security expert. He's an anti-corruption crusader and is chairman of HEDA. Good morning, Mr. Suraj.
Thank you, Mr. Folari. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Indeed. And also the HEDA, maybe so I can quickly explain that. What is it?
Oh, HEDA. It's called HEDA, which is Human and Environmental Development Agenda.
Ah, okay. Okay, that's clear now. That's clear. So, we know that there have been underpinnings of tension, should we say, sometimes between government agencies. Indeed, sometimes you see it within the armed forces themselves. You see, one branch, not being too happy with the other branch, and whoever happens to think that he can assert, that they can assert their authority at the time, they do go ahead and do so. Now, I'm referring specifically to day before yesterday at the Godwin Emefiele hearing where he was granted bail. He was rearrested. But before that could happen, there was something of a fracas. Give me what do you think about that, and what does this portend really for the fight against insecurity and the special kind of crimes that attracts the attention of those two government agencies?
Thank you very much. I think it is very important that we clearly make this, very loud and clear to the current government that it will not be tolerated, and it should not also be in the interest of the country if there is this lack of coordination between the agencies. Unfortunately, the last government actually has the highest record of in-government rivalry you have within ministers, and the same thing also goes within the law enforcement agencies, because there wasn't really any serious form of coordination. And I think it also boils down to the inability of the president, as at that time, to take full control of the activities of institutions, persons, and also government agencies, ministries and agencies alike, which was actually responsible for the obvious level, and I can say to a large extent, recklessness, amongst the appointees and also even elected officers. And it is that we want to really hope that this new government, especially with the character and the pedigree of the person appointed as a national security advisor, that quite a number of the activities of the law enforcement agency, anti-corruption agency, and security agencies will actually be properly coordinated with also accountability, responsibility, and at the same time, wherever it is necessary, people will have to also face penalties for their action. I was expecting between that 2 days ago and now that there should have been official release from the government, at least from the government, to reassure Nigerians that this is not going to be the kind of trajectory that would be seen under this government. Unfortunately, not even a week after the president came in, but just like 2 days after the president came in, there was the whole conflict or fracas, almost near fracas between the EFCC and the DSS over the long-held of occupancy of the EFCC office in Ikoyi in Lagos. And that is not the kind of thing that any country would want to see. But the implication of that for both security, the fight against corruption, the fight against crime, is something that we would really need to also discuss here.
Because this matter, it actually hurts us. There are pictures now from that day. Okay, they've taken them away. It was just for a split second. But people probably use that to be able to remember if indeed there was any chance of them forgetting, because the pictures were quite dramatic. I mean, it actually got as bad as that. It was sometimes all these kind of things might go on, but there will be sort of what is it? Covert. They won't come out like this. But there you have you can see what I'm talking about. So the symbolism, the whole world is watching and was watching on the day this was first broadcast, and we're gonna have to, as you said, not a statement yet. DSS must have had its reasons, but the fact is, people know that there's a certain order, there's a certain process, a certain procedure, and if the DSS went this way and ultimately achieved the aim of rearresting the suspended former central bank governor, what exactly was playing on in there is what people are going to want to know, because the DSS itself can't be. It's not a rogue organization. So why it behaved the way it behaved to just achieve its objective is what a lot of people, and you don't even need to be a lawyer, a lot of people are asking questions. What's the right procedure? Why was there such a tussle? Why did people in government not know these procedures? And so to obviate the need for the show that we saw.
Yeah, I think it would be important, and so we don't just treat some of these cases in isolation. As much as the display of DSS at that point was uncivil, it is actually condemnable. Like I said, putting it in context, it is becoming really also a challenge for us as a country, especially when you want to hold people accountable. I mean, these would not have happened where it is just an ordinary citizen that is affected or at the center of the issue. So even the correctional service also has a huge amount of blame to actually also take responsibilities for what happened. It is because it is the character of the person that is there. It is because of the level of influence of the person that is at the center of it, which is a Mayfair. The unfortunate thing is the fact that you would have seen, and that for me was originally like a concern. If you look at how people get out of court with bail, and it becomes extremely difficult for them to successfully get prosecuted by the system, either by the court, which would continue to grant adjournment. And I have a very pathetic case involving the Senator Stella Odua, who has been arraigned since 2019, and not until last week was the EFCC able to successfully bring her into the dock to actually also read charges to her. Between 2019, that is going to almost 4 years. And now what did the judge do? The judge just simply said, okay, right, I'm granting her bail. Not only just granted her bail, she even ordered that the file should be transferred to the Office of the Attorney General. There was no application from the Office of the Attorney General to take over, that prosecution. When you look at some of these experiences, it also really goes down, especially to where you have a law enforcement agency that really want to do the work. We can't also pretend not to know that there would always be conflict, either we like it or not. It cannot be for the altruistic reasons where the two agencies want to do their work professionally, but at the same time, they have different module or they have little different understanding. There might be conflict which would not necessarily lead to tussle. There might be conflict where one agency wants to do the right thing and the other agency is compromised and wants to truncate or frustrate the action and activities of the other agency. And the third one will be where the both of them are compromised and acting under some untoward influences to actually deal with the situation. And either of that is not the kind of situation that we wanted. The first one is even still a little bit understandable, where the both of them wants to discharge their duty and there can't be overlapping, responsibilities between them. But these are things that can be properly coordinated. And like I said, I don't see for any reason where the staff of the correctional service, and I'm happy that there was a statement that would be reviewed, would also go into any conflict with the DSS or the tussle with the DSS over a suspect, because the court is still there. You can simply apply back to the court and say the suspect was not handed over to us. How do you want to go and physically take charge of the suspect? The suspect was brought to court by the DSS. And you would also understand how some very ridiculous, very funny, unfortunately, that is where you also think that Nigerians are not really ready for the fight against corruption or even against crime and insecurity. Some very fictitious and funny lawyers put themselves together and say they are NGOs, the coalition to free Emefiele, to go and start applying for Emefiele. And you want to ask yourself, where was the antecedent or even record of this? There was none. It's just as part of the emergence for them to take activities, take control of how they want to coordinate the freedom of Emefiele. It is not about Emefiele answering to some of the charges, some of the issues that have been raised, against him. These are not guys that have been known to even champion, the freedom or the protection or the right of the ordinary citizens or some other ordinaries. But this is also targeted. So when you see the campaign that is already been building up around Emefiele, it will tell you, if you're not careful, that within the same Nigeria and also the law enforcement system, you would find Emefiele almost on the street, if not possibly contesting for election come 2027, for the presidency of Nigeria, like he attempted to do in 2023. But the citizens, the other actors, we must allow the institutions to also do their work. And I don't want a situation where a number of stakeholders, the lawyers, the courts, the prison service, would want to also compel other agencies that are intolerant of the level of compromise. I mean, we have people in prisons who are still impregnating their wives when they are actually in custody. You have quite a number.
I beg your pardon, Larry. Forgive me for interrupting, Larry.